factors that predict these positive outcomes. What we found is that both strong Muslim and ethnic identities predict better adaptation. So this is good. This is a resource. The youth who were more frequently engaged in Muslim practices, again, were better adapted. If they perceived less discrimination, this had positive influence on their adaptive outcomes, as well as family and support from families and friends. So all of these factors predicted better outcomes for our youth. So we're looking at a group that seems, as I said, to be well integrated and well adapted. But what about their experience in the wider community? Okay? Are they experiencing discrimination and prejudice? Okay. Just have a look at this quote. So plans are afoot to build a massive mosque, meters from ground zero. And this tribute to Islamic terrorists, it's not an issue of religious freedom, but it's an issue of Muslim dominance over Christians and Jews who do not share their religion. Now, you may be thinking New York Times. That was this weekend in the Dawn Post, letters to the editor. So this is here in New Zealand. What do our Muslim youth tell us? Essentially, they feel very misunderstood. This comes from our qualitative work. They talk about New Zealanders having misconceptions about Islam and terrorism. And our Muslim youth are very keen to dispel the negative stereotypes and the misunderstanding, and to help New Zealanders understand the real Islam. So this is an experience for them, a daily experience of being misunderstood and trying to represent their faith in a more positive light in our wider society. When you ask them, however, on survey about do you experience discrimination, it looks like they don't experience much, or they're not willing to report very much. So you see, although a quarter of the youth said that they have been insulted or teased because of their background, they generally feel like they're accepted by New Zealanders. They have rarely been threatened or attacked because of their background. And like we would expect, and you find in psychological research in general, they're more willing to report unfair treatment towards their group as a whole rather than personal discrimination against themselves. Okay, so what can we do about this? How can we encourage greater tolerance and acceptance of diversity in New Zealand? We know that contact is a very powerful tool to bring groups together for mutual understanding and better intergroup relations. So what we explored in our final workshop, our Building Bridges workshop, was to bring together Muslim and non-Muslim youth and have them work on a number of projects. The workshop for the day involved issues pertaining to identity and stereotyping, but one of the major projects in the workshop was to bring the youth together and ask them, do we need a new New Zealand flag? Essentially, there's a lot of discussion right now. Do we need another flag to best to represent the diversity of our country? So if you think we need a new flag, we would like for you to design the new flag and explain to us what's behind this. We had, I think, 5 or 6 groups who did this, but this was our award-winning flag. And Joris DeBreeze, our race relations commissioner, was one of the major panel judges and presented the award. Now, let me tell you what the group said about this flag, because they had to get up and explain it. This flag incorporated strong and clear symbolism and metaphoric use of color. The letters N and Z filled are colored black and white and detailed with Māori designs. This represents the bicultural nature of New Zealand society. The silver ferns signify the uniqueness of the environment and how we are connected to the earth, and the 2 stars symbolize the North and South Islands. With regards to the colors in the background, blue represents New Zealand as an island nation. Red represents blood and how underneath the skin everyone has the same color. And yellow represents freedom and happiness. The white stripe through the flag symbolizes peace and indicates that which holds us together as a country is the concept of peace and togetherness. I thought it was pretty amazing. we asked them at the end, what did you learn in this workshop? And here's just one of the quotes. We may all look different, but we have the same problems and we're the same inside. So we did find that bringing together these groups to work on work cooperatively on a project about diversity did seem to have some positive results. So finally, I'd just like to say a little bit about some of the policy implications of this project. First of all, we want programs and policies that nurture and support Muslim identity, Muslim practices, and the Muslim community. This should not be seen as a threat in New Zealand. These are things that are associated with positive outcomes for the youth, strengthening identity, giving our Muslims the space to be Muslims and be part of the wider community. We want policies and programs that promote an appreciation of diversity. This isn't new, but what I haven't shared with you is some of our survey research with New Zealanders, where we have a study that sampled 300 New Zealanders from the electoral rolls. 44% said Muslims increase the risk of terrorism. 52% Muslims do not share our worldview. And 44%, I wouldn't want a mosque in my neighborhood. And 15% only agreed that it was okay for Muslim women to wear headscarves when they wanted to. So this is the context in which these youth are struggling to fit in. Mm-hmm. So we need to remember that, if this is a two-way street, it involves us and how receptive and accommodating we can be to this kind of diversity. We want policies and programs that build bridges and increase positive contact between Muslims and non-Muslims in New Zealand. And my last, and this is really important, we need research funding, because the government has now forced has cut Building an Inclusive Society portfolio, which is the portfolio that funded this research and a lot of other research on diversity. This is an important issue, and we need it. We really need high quality research. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Colleen. Colleen was perfectly on time, so I have time for questions from the floor, please.
One of those slides talked about perceptions that youth had, whether they've been affected by discrimination. And that last point that had 39% was their perception of whether other people had acted discriminatory.
Whether their group had been discriminated.
And was that their reflections on what was happening in New Zealand, or was that more global actually?
No, it was very much tied to New Zealand, about their experiences in New Zealand.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure the prompt specified in New Zealand.
And did they elaborate on how they saw that happening?
Not in the quantitative study, because that was just the survey responses. And I will say we know international research that people, whether it's religious or ethnic or whatever kind of discrimination, are far more willing to say that my group is discriminated against than I have been discriminated against. But we do have from our qualitative data some indication. They talk about comments passed about the way they dress, they look different. The very big was the issue of Muslims are terrorists and Islam is a violent religion, which they wanted to set straight. What else? But then, of course, we've got like the complaints to the Human Rights Commission. We do find that with respect to complaints based on religious background, Muslims have a proportionally higher number of complaints about discrimination. It often has to do with dress. So many factors, I'd say.